If you grew up in a black Southern household, you already know that Grandma's pantry was basically a survival bunker wrapped in a floral apron. While the rest of the world was out here panicking over supply shortages and empty grocery shelves, black grandmas across the South were sitting back completely unbothered because they had already been doing this for generations. This was not a trend for them. This was a way of life passed down from necessity, from wisdom, and from a deep cultural understanding that you keep your people fed no matter what happens outside that front door. We are going from number 20 all the way down to number 1, and by the time we reach that top spot, you are going to want to call your grandmother or go pick up a pen and start building your own pantry the right way. Let us get into it. Number 20. Cane syrup. Now, do not confuse this with maple syrup or regular pancake syrup from the grocery store shelf. Cane syrup is a thick, dark, deeply flavored syrup made from whole sugarcane juice that has been slowly boiled down until it becomes something almost otherworldly in its richness. Black families throughout Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi have kept Steen's cane syrup or similar regional brands in their pantries for generations. When stored in a sealed tin or glass jar, cane syrup has an indefinite shelf life because of its extremely high sugar content, which prevents microbial growth. Grandmothers used it on biscuits in sweet potato pies, over cornbread, and as a secret weapon in certain barbecue sauces. It is a taste that connects directly to the sugarcane fields of the Deep South, a bittersweet history transformed into something that nourishes. Number 19. Dried black-eyed peas. On New Year's Day across the Black South, you will find these simmering on every stove from South Carolina to Texas. Black-eyed peas represent luck, prosperity, and the tradition of Hoppin' John, a dish that has been a cornerstone of African-American Southern cooking since before the Civil War. When dried properly and stored in an airtight container away from moisture and heat, dried black-eyed peas can last easily 5 to 10 years without losing their nutritional value or their ability to cook up into something glorious. Black grandmothers keep multiple bags of these on hand at all times. They are cheap, they are filling, they are culturally significant, and they pair with smoked ham hocks or fatback in ways that will make you close your eyes and say a quiet thank you. Number 18. Fatback. Some people hear the word fatback and they wrinkle their nose. Those people have never eaten correctly. Fatback is heavily salted pork fat from the back of the pig, and black Southern cooks have been using it to season everything from greens to beans to cornbread skillets for centuries. The heavy salt cure gives fatback a remarkably long shelf life, especially when kept wrapped tightly and stored in a cool place. In the era before refrigeration, this was critical survival food. Today it lives in the refrigerator or freezer of practically every black grandmother in the South, though plenty of old-school cooks still argue it keeps just fine in a cool pantry wrapped in the right paper. It is the foundation of flavor, the invisible hand behind dishes that taste like they have 100 ingredients when really they just have that one key piece of pork. Number 17. Smoked sausage. Not the kind you buy fresh and need to cook within a few days. We are talking about the hard, heavily smoked, shelf-stable links that black families in the rural South have relied on for generations. Andouille sausage in Louisiana, Conica sausage in Alabama, and similar regional varieties are smoked so thoroughly that they can last for weeks, unrefrigerated, and for years in the freezer. Grandmothers slice them into red beans and rice, drop them into gumbos, fry them up with eggs on Saturday morning, and stir them into cornbread dressing for the holidays. The smoking process and the salt content make these sausages both extraordinarily flavorful and naturally preserved. They are a pantry staple that doubles as a full flavor profile. Number 16. White cornmeal. Not yellow cornmeal. White cornmeal. This distinction matters enormously in the black Southern kitchen. White cornmeal is used for cornbread that comes out of a cast iron skillet with a dark crust on the bottom and a tender crumb inside. It is used for hoe cakes fried in a pan on the stovetop, for dredging catfish and frying it golden, and for a dozen other preparations that define Southern black cooking. Stored in a sealed container or in the freezer, white cornmeal can last for 1 to 2 years without issue, and many grandmothers freeze large quantities specifically to extend its shelf life. White cornmeal is not just an ingredient, it is a cultural statement. It says we are from here. We know what we are doing. Number 15. Baking soda and baking powder. Yes, we are counting these together because they work as a pair in the black southern kitchen and because together they are the reason that biscuits rise, that cornbread gets that perfect lift, and that those layer cakes at family reunions stand 3 inches tall. Baking soda is essentially indefinite in its shelf life when sealed properly. Baking powder typically lasts 2 to 3 years unopened. Black grandmothers buy these in bulk, and they test them before every major cooking session because nothing is worse than flat cornbread when you have a full table of people waiting. These are the unsung heroes of the Southern pantry, the quiet chemical engineers behind every baked good that makes people ask for the recipe. Number 14. Dried hot peppers and red pepper flakes. Heat is not optional in the black Southern kitchen, it is essential. Whether it is whole-dried cayenne peppers strung up and hung in the kitchen the way you see in old Southern homes, or red pepper flakes kept in a mason jar on the counter, dried peppers are a permanent resident of every black grandmother's pantry. Dried properly, these peppers can last 3 to 5 years and longer without losing their heat or their flavor. They go into pot liquor, into pepper vinegar for greens, into dry rubs for ribs, and into the seasoning blends that grandmothers guard like family secrets. The heat is not just about flavor. It is about tradition, about palate, about the way food is supposed to feel when it hits the back of your throat. Number 13. Lard. Before the health food movement told everyone to switch to vegetable oil, black grandmothers in the South were cooking with lard and turning out some of the best food in the history of American cuisine. Lard is rendered pork fat, and when rendered properly and stored in a sealed can or container, it has a very long shelf life. Many grandmothers keep their lard can on the back of the stove, scooping from it to fry chicken, to make pie crusts that shatter when you press a fork through them, and to season cast iron skillets that have been in the family for 40 years. Lard is making a comeback in culinary circles right now, but black Southern grandmothers never stopped using it. They knew what they had. Number 12. Sorghum molasses. Different from blackstrap molasses, sorghum is made from a grain that has deep roots in the African American agricultural tradition of the South. Enslaved Africans and their descendants cultivated sorghum extensively, and the sweet, thick syrup it produces became a staple sweetener in black Southern homes when refined sugar was inaccessible or too expensive. Sorghum molasses, kept in a sealed jar or tin, has an extremely long shelf life due to its high sugar concentration and naturally antimicrobial properties. Grandmothers spread it on biscuits, stir it into gingerbread batter, use it in sweet potato dishes, and add it to certain barbecue sauce recipes for a depth of flavor that regular molasses simply cannot match. This is one of the most culturally specific ingredients on this list. Number 11. Dried butter beans. These are large, creamy, rich legumes that are absolutely central to the black Southern table. Butter beans cooked low and slow with a smoked ham hock until they are falling apart soft, and the pot liquor is rich and silky, is one of the defining dishes of African American Southern cooking. Like other dried legumes, dried butter beans store for years when kept properly in a sealed container away from heat and moisture. Black grandmothers often grow their own butter beans in summer gardens, shell them, and dry them to stock the pantry for winter. This practice of growing, preserving, and stockpiling connects directly to the agricultural traditions of the African American South and to the deep wisdom of women who understood food security long before it became a modern conversation. Number 10. We are in the top 10 now, and this is where things get really serious. Apple cider vinegar. Not any vinegar, specifically apple cider vinegar, which has been a fixture in black Southern kitchens for generations. Black grandmothers use it in a dozen ways. They add it to greens for brightness and to cut through richness. They use it as the base for homemade pepper vinegar, which is a sauce bottle filled with hot peppers and vinegar that sits on the table and gets poured over everything. They use it in salad dressings, in marinades, in the water when poaching certain meats. Apple cider vinegar has an essentially indefinite shelf life because its high acidity prevents bacterial growth. A sealed bottle in the pantry can last for years and years. Black grandmothers have known this practically forever. Number 9. Dried field peas. Now, dried field peas are different from black-eyed peas, though both are beloved. Field peas encompass a whole family of peas, including crowder peas, purple hull peas, and zipper peas, all of which carry enormous cultural significance in the Black South. Field pea cultivation in the American South was heavily influenced by West African agricultural traditions, and these legumes became survival foods that were eaten fresh in summer and dried for winter storage. Dried field peas can last for multiple years in proper storage conditions. When cooked with pork seasoning and served alongside cornbread and collard greens, they represent the complete grammar of Black Southern food. Every grandmother has her preferred variety, and she keeps several pounds of them in the pantry at all times. Number 8. Grits, specifically stone-ground white grits, not the quick-cooking instant kind that come in individual packets. Stone-ground grits made from dried hominy corn are a cornerstone of the Black Southern breakfast table, the Sunday morning ritual, the dish that shows up at fish fries and funerals and everything in between. Sealed in an airtight container, stone-ground grits can last for a year or more at room temperature and indefinitely in the freezer. Black grandmothers in South Carolina, Georgia, and the entire Low Country cook their grits low and slow with butter and sometimes cheese, and serve them in ways that will redefine your understanding of what grits can be. This is not a side dish. In the Black Southern tradition, grits are a cultural institution. Number 7. Pure vanilla extract. Now, you might think vanilla extract belongs on any general cooking list, but in the Black Southern tradition, pure vanilla extract is treated almost like a luxury good and an essential staple simultaneously. Grandmothers buy the big bottle, the good kind, not the imitation kind, and they use it with a generous hand in pound cakes, in sweet potato pies, in banana puddings, in tea cakes, and in practically every dessert that defines the Black Southern table. Pure vanilla extract made with alcohol has an indefinite shelf life. The alcohol acts as a preservative, and the flavor actually deepens and improves over time. Some grandmothers have vanilla extract that has been sitting in a dark cabinet for decades, and it is better than anything you can buy new. Number 6. Raw honey. Honey has been found in ancient Egyptian tombs, still perfectly edible after thousands of years. Black grandmothers in the rural South have known the preservation power of raw honey for generations, and they use it in ways that go beyond just sweetening tea. Raw honey is used as a cough remedy, as a skin treatment, as a sweetener for biscuits and cornbread, and as an ingredient in certain preserved fruit preparations. Black communities in the Deep South have long traditions of beekeeping, and sourcing local raw honey from nearby farms or family members is common. Stored in a sealed container at room temperature, raw honey is essentially the most shelf-stable food that exists. It crystallizes over time, but a quick warm water bath returns it to its liquid state immediately. Number 5. We are in the top 5, and every item from here to number 1 is absolutely central to the Black Southern identity. Salt pork. Salt pork is different from fatback in that it includes both fat and sometimes streaks of meat, heavily cured in pure salt. It has been the backbone of Southern black cooking since the era of slavery, when enslaved people were provided with pork offcuts and salt as basic rations and transformed those humble ingredients into a cuisine of extraordinary depth and complexity. Salt pork is essentially indefinite in its shelf life when kept in its salt cure. It is the seasoning agent for collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, butter beans, field peas, and countless other dishes. When you taste the pot liquor from greens seasoned with salt pork, you are tasting centuries of cultural resilience in liquid form. Number 4. Cornmeal mix. Specifically the self-rising cornmeal mix that has been the quick go-to for Black Southern grandmothers who need to get cornbread on the table fast when unexpected company arrives, which in the Black South is every single day. Brands like Martha White and White Lily have been in Black Southern pantries for so long that the canisters are practically family heirlooms. A sealed bag of cornmeal mix lasts 12 to 18 months at room temperature and much longer in the freezer, and grandmothers often buy it by the 5-pound bag specifically to ensure they never run out. With just cornmeal mix, an egg, some buttermilk, and a hot cast iron skillet greased with a little oil or lard, you can have a perfect pan of cornbread in 25 minutes. This is the emergency food that has fed generations on short notice. Number 3. We are almost to the top, and this one is going to resonate with everyone who grew up in a black southern home. Dried pinto beans. If black-eyed peas represent New Year's and field peas represent summer, dried pinto beans represent every day. Monday beans. The pot that sits on the back of the stove and simmers all day while grandmama does everything else she needs to do. Pinto beans cooked low and slow with smoked neck bones or a ham bone left over from Sunday's ham, served over white rice or with cornbread crumbled right into the pot liquor, is one of the most deeply comforting meals in the entire canon of African American cooking. Dried pinto beans stored in a sealed container are shelf-stable for up to 10 years. Black grandmothers keep them by the pound, sometimes by the 5-pound bag, and they cook them with a knowledge and an instinct that no recipe can fully capture. Number 2. This is the spot that was always going to belong to this ingredient, because nothing in the black southern kitchen is more foundational, more universally present, more deeply woven into the culture than this. Kosher salt or sea salt. Pure salt is the oldest food preservative in human history, and in the black southern kitchen, it is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Salt is used to cure meats, to season cast iron skillets, to brine chicken before frying it, so that the meat stays moist and the seasoning penetrates all the way through, to make the greens taste right, to balance the sweetness in cornbread, and to cure vegetables for long storage. Salt has no expiration date, it is chemically stable, and will last forever. Black grandmothers keep large boxes and containers of salt, and they use it without a measuring spoon because they learn to season by feel, by knowledge passed down through hands rather than written on paper. The way a black grandmother seasons with salt is itself an act of cultural transmission. And now we have arrived. Number 1. Southern potted meat. If you grew up in a black southern household, you already felt something just reading those words. That small rectangular can with the pull tab, that smooth, spreadable, seasoned meat product that Grandma had in her pantry in quantities that would surprise you. Potted meat was not just a food, it was cultural. It was a quick meal when Grandma did not feel like cooking, but you needed something in your stomach. It was the after-school snack spread across some crackers with a little hot sauce on top. It was what she packed in the lunchbox when things were tight. It was the road trip food, the emergency food, the comfort food that had absolutely nothing to do with being fancy and everything to do with being real. Potted meat in the black southern tradition has a shelf life of up to 5 years or more when stored properly, and Grandma was not just keeping 1 or 2 cans. She was keeping a whole section of the pantry dedicated to those little cans stacked neatly in rows. Brands like Armour and others were household names, and opening a can of potted meat with some saltine crackers was a legitimate meal that satisfied you in a way that went beyond the physical. It was connected to memory, to poverty surviving, to resourcefulness celebrated, to the simple dignity of feeding your family with what you had available to you. If this video brought back some memories or reminded you of somebody's kitchen you used to love spending time in, drop a comment below and tell me about it. Like this video if you learned something or just enjoyed the trip down memory lane, and subscribe because we have got a lot more Southern food history and culture coming your way. I will see you in the next one.